Sooner or later, everyone dies. Thankfully, I don't have to worry about this. I'm not real. But you, dear viewer, don't have that luxury. Eventually, you and everyone you know will be nothing more than an empty, rotting shell. The futile, meandering lives and inevitable deaths of humans can be a fascination at times. For instance, one popular way to dispose of remains is cremation. When did it start? How does it work? What happens when the person entrusted with the task of burning the dead becomes too lazy and apathetic to care? Today we're going to look at the strange case of the Tristate Crematory Scandal. First, we need to briefly explore the history of burning corpses. History of cremation. Nobody is sure when humans began using fire to dispose of the dead. It was in use at least 17,000 years ago in Australia. Cremation was also used in Europe at least 4,000 years ago. It has also been used in many Eastern cultures for thousands of years. Archaeological evidence all over the world demonstrates that fire has been used to transform human remains for a significant portion of its existence. There are three common methods used for handling the dead. Cremation and burial are the most popular today. Less frequently, corpses are exposed to the elements and allowed to decay naturally. Cultures usually don't stick to just one method of disposal. Preferences change over time. For instance, cremation was common in Europe until the arrival of Christianity. It fell out of favor for centuries and was even outlawed in many countries. It began to reappear in the 1870s and has been gaining popularity ever since. In the late 19th century, Europe was home to more people than ever before, and scientists were concerned about the spread of disease, even though they didn't quite understand it. Additionally, the development of modern furnaces provided the ability to efficiently process large numbers of dead. Essentially, the ability to destroy the dead efficiently, cheaply, and on a large scale made cremation attractive. Of course, the Germans used this technology on an industrial scale during World War II for more nefarious purposes. In that case, they murdered Jewish prisoners and ran incinerators to destroy their bodies. One of the downsides of developing efficient methods for corpse disposal is it also helps with the process of mass murder. Nonetheless, cremation has increased in popularity in the Western world since the end of World War II. The process varies slightly from country to country. In most cases, the first task is to examine the deceased and remove certain items. Jewelry is typically taken and returned to the family. Also, certain medical devices, such as pacemakers, must be removed. They can cause large explosions if placed into the incinerator. Once everything is removed, the remains are then pushed into the furnace. In some countries, they may be kept in a coffin, and in others, the body is removed first. The result is the same in either case. Some things in the body may not be removed until after cremation is complete. This includes tooth fillings, hip replacements, and other similar items. These might be returned to the next of kin. But it is also acceptable for it to be sold as scrap metal. Those in the funeral business need multiple revenue streams after all. The body is burned at a temperature of 1400 to 2100 degrees Fahrenheit, or 760 to 1150 degrees Celsius. In Western countries, once the body is destroyed, the remains are sent to a machine called the cremulator to complete the process. The bones are still mostly intact after cremation. In order to convert the body to a powder-like substance that can be returned to the family, the remains are pulverized by the cremulator. This creates the ashes, which are returned to the family. A more accurate term is cremains, because the cremation process doesn't actually convert a person to ash. After being exposed to extreme heat, the soft tissues vaporize, while minerals that don't burn are left behind. Despite their best efforts to clean the incinerator, it is impossible to remove all the residue from one person before the next person must be processed. So when a family member receives cremains, they probably contain parts of other people's remains too. The cremated remains of men on average weigh about 5.3 pounds. Women weigh less at around 4.1 pounds. The good news is cremation does successfully stop corpses from spreading disease. Tristate Crematory. The Tristate Crematory was founded in the mid-1970s by Tommy Marsh. It was in northwest Georgia. The crematory provided services not just for Georgia, but for parts of Alabama and Tennessee as well. Tommy Marsh was well respected in the community. He once ran for coroner and lost by only 100 votes. He also ran other businesses related to the funeral industry. By all accounts, when he was paid for a service, Tommy Marsh delivered. His health began declining in the mid-1990s, so Tommy's son, Ray Brent Marsh, took over the family business. For several years, everything appeared to be business as usual. As far as anybody knew, the crematory business was continuing to provide services for the community just as it always had. The illusion didn't last long. On 2 occasions, a propane delivery truck driver complained to the local sheriff's department that he had seen bodies lying around on the Marsh property. A deputy sheriff was sent to investigate, but didn't find anything unusual. In 2002, the Environmental Protection Agency received an anonymous tip that something wasn't right at the crematory. EPA officers were sent to investigate the property and found a human skull in bones just lying around. More investigators were sent to find out what was going on. They found piles of bodies in a storage shed that were in various stages of decomposition. Body parts were scattered all over the property, seemingly at random. It was obvious that Ray was not cremating the bodies that were sent to him. A federal disaster team arrived at the Marsh property and brought a portable morgue with them. They began the task of trying to identify the bodies. The team found 339 bodies scattered around the property. They were only able to successfully identify 226 of them. Ray Brent Marsh apparently had issues carrying out the cremations, but nobody really knows why. Ray claimed the cremation oven was broken. Investigators determined the oven was working, although it did need maintenance. When he didn't bother cremating a body, Ray would give the family a bag of concrete powder instead. The scam might have worked indefinitely if he was better at hiding the discarded bodies. Legal problems. Ray Brent Marsh was arrested. The state of Georgia eventually charged him with 787 criminal violations. These included theft by deception, abusing a corpse, burial service fraud, and giving false statements. The maximum penalty would have kept Ray in prison for the rest of his life. Ray did have good lawyers. After they secured a deal with prosecutors, Ray pled guilty to several charges and accepted a 12-year sentence. He remained in prison until June 29, 2016. Most of the legal ramifications were not due to criminal charges. Families who paid to have their loved ones cremated were angry and horrified. Not only did Ray steal their money, but he desecrated their remains. Since this took place across 3 states and included hundreds of families, it wasn't feasible for each individual to sue. There were several class action lawsuits on behalf of the affected families. The funeral homes that used the Tristate Crematory also sued. Eventually, a settlement was reached with the Marsh family and their insurance company. When it was time to enforce the settlement, Ray didn't comply. The settlement was never honored and the issue couldn't be resolved. A second trial started in 2004 as the plaintiffs again tried to hold the Marsh family responsible. This time the families settled with the Marsh family by requiring they set aside an acre of property as a memorial to the dead. The Marsh family would also have to agree to an $80 million judgment, even though it was understood they could never actually pay. The Marsh family has not paid anything to the families so far. Their insurance company did pay a settlement to the funeral homes. As part of the settlement, all buildings on the Tristate Crematory property were destroyed in 2005. So, the Marsh family is out of the funeral business. Mercury. Although Ray Brent Marsh avoided the worst legal punishments, he did suffer health problems from working at the crematory. On February 7, 2007, Ray's defense attorneys revealed that testing showed he was a victim of mercury toxicity. The Tristate Crematory had a faulty ventilation system and was not exhausting all the gases produced by burning bodies. When dental fillings were vaporized, some of the mercury fumes were inhaled by Ray. His father Tommy was also exposed to the same fumes for several years. Mercury poisoning doesn't necessarily provide an excuse for Ray's negligence, but it does explain why he might have behaved strangely. The symptoms of exposure to mercury are numerous and variable. Some of them include a sensitivity to light, uncontrollable emotions, insomnia, and memory impairment. Brain damage is a potential consequence of sustained contact with the metal. If Ray Brent Marsh was slowly poisoned over several years, then it makes sense that his ability to function would deteriorate. It does not explain why he would casually throw corpses around his property. In an attempt to evade legal responsibility, Ray's lawyer has claimed the mercury is entirely responsible for the irrational behavior. There is, of course, another possibility. Perhaps Ray was exposed to mercury, but the poisoning was not severe enough to cause mental impairment. Instead, maybe he simply had problems keeping up with the number of bodies arriving at the crematory. Hiring more people to help would have meant less money in his pocket, so during busy times he would just throw a few bodies out to keep things moving along. And after throwing away a few too many, the locals started to notice. Additionally, Tommy Marsh was exposed to even more mercury than Ray. The problem with discarding corpses didn't start until Ray took over the business. The fact Ray was handing out bags of concrete in place of ashes also suggests his actions were carefully considered instead of random. We will probably never know the truth. When asked why, Ray simply responds that he doesn't have answers. How do you feel about Ray Brent Marsh and his careless treatment of the dead? Is it a horrible and unforgivable crime? Is desecrating the bodies of the dead among the worst things a person can do? Or was 12 years in prison too harsh? After all, the dead are probably not capable of being offended. Would you like to be cremated when you die? Let us know how you feel in the comments below. If you thought this episode was interesting, then we ask that you hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Maybe if we get enough subscribers, then we'll feel loved and cover happier topics. In the meantime, thank you for watching Bad Things in History.